Dear learners, welcome to another session of learning on research methodology. So today's topic that we are going to deal with is inferential tests and softwares that are used in quantitative research. So some of the commonly used tests are t-test, chi-square test, and ANOVA. And in this session, we will be getting an understanding of what are these three commonly used tests. And also, we will be having an understanding of what are the softwares that are used that support these tests, like SPSS and R. So let's begin with t-test. So what is t-test? T-test is a statistical test, and it is used, to find out if there is a difference between the means of two groups. For example, one group consists of the independent variable, and then you also have categorical levels based on it. For example, now let me take up the first example. Do students taught with Shakespearean texts perform better than those taught with modern drama? So, here what happens, there are two groups. One is the group that is taught with Shakespearean text, and the other that is taught with modern drama. So, by finding out the mean of these two groups separately, and then a test is run to see if there is a difference in the mean of these two groups. So, the T test is beneficial to understand this, and usually there are categories that are there, and you use it when your dependent variable is continuous and your independent variables are part of categories. So I hope you understood t-test, and there are three different types of t-tests, and in this slide we're able to see what are the three types of t-tests, and an example is also given. So one sample t-test means that you have only one group, and it is compared with the standard group. So the mean of this one group is compared with the standard. For example, is the average word count of student essays significantly different from 1,000 words? So the standard over here is 1,000 words, and that is compared to the word count that students use in their essays. So that is the first type. The second is independent t-test. In independent t-test, what happens is you compare two unrelated groups. Let me explain better with this example. So, do students taught using classical novels score higher in comprehension tests than those taught with contemporary fiction? So you have two groups, one who are taught with classical novels and the other who are taught with contemporary fiction. And both of them have no connection. And over here, we analyze their comprehension tests. So a T test over here is able to understand, to compare between, two unrelated groups also. Then paired sample t-test. Here, what happens is it's the same group that is analyzed, and the condition is that to see if there is a difference in their or a change in them in this group. So, usually, when an intervention is adopted, then this t-test is helpful because you try to find out the before and the after to see the change that has happened in the group. So, example, do students improve vocabulary after reading a specific author? For example, or Jane Austen. So, before reading Jane Austen, you would find out the mean, and then after reading also you would see, you would find out the mean to find out if there is an improvement in the vocabulary. So I hope you got an understanding of t-test. So t-test is basically to find out the significant difference between the means of two groups. And this would give a better understanding, a pictorial representation of the t-test. Now, chi-square test. Chi-square test over here shows the association between categorical variables. For example, is there an association between gender and preferred literary genre? So over here, gender and literary genre are two categories of the variables, and we try to find out if there's an association. So the association between the two categories are, or two variables that are categories, are found out through the chi-square test. And we see that usually both the variables are categories, like I previously mentioned. And an example would be, it could be gender, it could be brand choice, etc. And chi-square also has two types. One is goodness of fit test, and the other is test of independence. So in goodness of fit test, Let me explain through example. Does the frequency of passive voice in student writing match expected norms? So we see that a category is there, and it is observed whether this category matches with the expected one or the standardized one. So the category and the standardized one is compared, and over here we find the answer if there's an association. Next, text of independence. Text of independence is to find out whether the two sets of variables are related to each other or not. For example, is there a relationship between age group and preference for poetry or prose? So there's one group which is age group and the other is preference in the genre. So this is the next type of chi-square test, which is test of independence. So chi-square test has two types, whereas t-test has three types. Moving further, what is ANOVA test? So ANOVA, it stands for analysis of variance. So it is basically to find out the statistical significant difference in means among more than three or more than three groups. So usually it is multiple in number. For example, let me give substantiate with the example. Is writing fluency affected by three different teaching methods? Peer review, grammar drills, or creative writing. So you have three different groups. One is peer review, the other is grammar drills, and the other is creative writing. So does it affect these three different teaching methods? Does it affect fluency? We are trying to find out the link between this. So this is an example of ANOVA test. The types of ANOVA test are one-way ANOVA, two-way ANOVA, and repeated measures. So one-way ANOVA is you compare three groups with an independent variable. In two-way ANOVA, you compare two independent variables and their interactions. So with the examples, let me give you a better explanation. So for one-way ANOVA, you compare whether metaphor usage in essays written about Shakespeare, Orwell, and Woolf, the metaphor usage by these three you compare. So that's one way ANOVA, and that is in essay form. So the independent variable is essay form. And in two-way, you see that does comprehension score vary by genre and reading strategy. So we have a two-way comprehension score, and you have two variables that interact, genre and reading strategy. And then you also have repeated measure, which is a third type of ANOVA, which is same group is measured multiple times or under different conditions. So the conditions keep changing. For example, testing vocabulary retention of readers before they read one writer or after they read a writer. So if you take up three different writers, then before after. So under you repeatedly you change the conditions and you try to see if there are any associations. So I hope you got an understanding of the three tests: t-test, chi-square test, and ANOVA test. Now this is a better understanding for you of what ANOVA does and what ANOVA doesn't. Moving on, this is a pictorial representation of the ANOVA types. What are statistical softwares? So why do we need them? Statistical softwares are helpful because they make our work lighter. Imagine, doing all the previously mentioned tests for around 100 or 200 samples. It would take a lot of time. It would be a tedious process, and it would be time consuming on the one side and energy draining also. So what happens is over here, these statistical softwares, they make our work lighter. They help in accurate computation. They help better visualization of our data, and also they break down complex material into simple analysis. And some popular tools that are used are SPSS, R, SAS, Stata, and MATLAB. So SPSS, it stands for Statistical Package for the Social Sciences. I repeat, Statistical Package for the Social Sciences. And it is developed by IBM. And we see the interface is very similar to an Excel spreadsheet. So you can drag and drop items, and you also have built-in tests like t-test, ANOVA, etc. And we also have that it auto generates visualization. So you have graphs, tables that can be used or made using SPSS, and it is ideal for all the following subjects mentioned in the slide. And the advantages, it is user friendly, it is ideal for social sciences, and it also gives a very clear output. And like I mentioned, it has some built-in procedures, built-in tests that are very easily accessible, and it's also good for documentation. The disadvantage is that it has limited customization, and it requires money validation, so it's quite expensive, and you have less control over the code, and it's not ideal for big data. On the other hand, R is something which is open for everyone. It's an open source programming language, and this is also helpful in statistical analysis. It is code based, it is flexible, and it also has tests like t.test, sky test, ANOVA function, everything it does have. Uh, so the advantages, it is free and it is open source, it's customizable, it has extensive packages, and it also has strong text analysis, which is beneficial for English literature studies, especially corpus linguistics. If you want to do, then you can use R, and it also it produces reproducible research. On the other hand, its disadvantages are it's very steep learning curve, and it also has less error handling capabilities. And we also see that it is less intuitive, so visualization is not much. You don't have options over here, and it has overwhelming options, too many packages, too many methods, and sometimes you don't know which to choose. So these are some of the softwares, and the workflow for these softwares are: first you import the data, then you clean the data, and then you visualize the data. After that, you choose the test which is appropriate for you, whether it's t-test, chi-square, or ANOVA. T-test you can use for comparing the means of two groups, chi-square to find out the categorical relationships, and ANOVA for three plus group and their means. And finally, you interpret the p-value and you get your results and reports. So that's it for today on some of the statistical tests and softwares. I hope you all